Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly astrology forecast for the week of February 24th through March 2nd. Now, this is not to anyone in particular, but I feel like I really need to say this because a lot of people will just see my videos on the feed by the algorithm. And I just wanted to say, first of all, that I'm a Western tropical whole sign astrologer. I use the whole sign house system. And you might want to look at my website and my Instagram before you before you consume my content, just to know where I'm coming from and also my perspective on life, because I'm not going to tell you everything that you want to hear. And I don't think that's honoring the true nature of life and also the nuance that comes with living in this human experience as spiritual beings. I am an activist and I'm very vocal about certain things. So if you're coming on my page and you're like, how could you be talking about like Palestine or Congo or, protecting trans people? You're in the wrong place, my friend. I am very outspoken about human rights and about climate change. And I'm going to continue to speak out using the lens of astrology. And also at the same time, I'm not going to be doom and gloom. So I want to be realistic. I want to tell you what I see and the transits that I see that are going to be challenging, but also I'm an Aries and I have a lot of fire and air placements. I'm not the type of person to just say that, oh, Neptune in Aries is going to be really rough because the last time Neptune was in Aries was the Civil War, right? Like, what good does that do? But I'm going to help you through these transits by giving you advice and navigating through the energy, because you can't just absorb the astrology and the information through your intellectual mind. It becomes real when it's embodied and you take action from a place of alignment. So I just wanted to say that because, a lot of people are finding my videos now and they're coming and watching my videos without really having the context of who I am. And it's just weird to me that you wouldn't do that. Like, you wouldn't read up on somebody and like look at their bio and what they believe in, because it's just like you have to understand like who you're having more discernment on, who you're listening to and where you're getting this information from is so important, especially as Neptune will move into Aries next month. So, but thank you all so much for being here. When I decided to commit to making these weekly astrology forecasts in January 1st, actually, it was so that I can walk you through the transits every week and we can really look back. We do the recaps and see how these transits manifested. And obviously, like, we can't have a two-way conversation about them and what has transpired, but you're more than welcome to share in the comment section. But I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can in sharing with you in real time what has been going on for me, so that, yeah, it's not just like we're talking about our observations, right? Because, like, my working definition of astrology is the observations of the celestial bodies and their correlation to earthly events. And what we do with that information is what matters, because the future is still unwritten and we have the agency and the power within us to enact change and co-create a reality where everybody is free and more loving. I honestly believe we're all here to share our gifts and frolic and love. But there's certain things that, occupation and capitalism and racism, like all these things get in the fucking way. And so it's like I come from a place of believing in a better future, but also I want to remain realistic and hold space for people who are afraid. End scene today is February 23rd. I'm filming this almost the moment that Mars is stationing to go direct. It's been a minute. Let's see, it's still not direct yet. But it has been a trip, y'all. Like, um, I don't know if you've been personally violated by Mars, but yeah, such interesting stories that I've been hearing from people. And with that recap, the biggest one I had from last week was February 21st. Luigi Mangione, he appeared in court in New York. And this is 2 days before Mars stations direct. And remember back in December, it was December 4th when he allegedly, who knows if he really did or not, but that's when he became in the public eye for allegedly unaliving the CEO of United Healthcare. And that was like, that happened December 4th. And so December 6th, so 2 days before, Mars stationed to go retrograde in the sign of Leo. And so now, as Mars is going direct, he is back in the news. So I thought that was very interesting with timing. And then obviously today, Mars is going direct. And I think it was a previous video or something that I just had filmed with Stephanie. So make sure to look out for our March forecast because March is such a big deal that Mars will be sitting at 17 degrees. I mean, it already has been since like the beginning of February until March like 9th. So Mars is literally just sitting in the sky, stationing. And when Mars finally goes to like 18 degrees, it's going to change direction. You know, you're going to get your mojo back. You're going to be able to take action on certain things. So please share what your Mars retrograde story has been between the sign of Cancer and Leo. And I mean, I've been updating you about what mine has been. I went from, gosh, just battling some like jealousy and resentment feelings over online influencers to then I had my teeth problems. Then I had an allergic reaction to moxicillin, and I've gone to 1 of 4 appointments for my root canal, and so it's just been like the really for me about health and unexpected costs associated with that. But overall, we made it. So now we're going to get into the astrology for the week of February 24th and March 2nd. And I would say that the 2 biggest events happening this week is the new moon in Pisces, which will happen on February 27th. It's the last lunation before eclipse season. Oh my gosh. And then on March 1st, Venus will station retrograde in the sign of Aries at 10 degrees. So those 2 big things are happening this week. So let's get started on the day by day. And I'm saying this because March, there's just a lot happening in March. And, you know, I have my degree in psychology, so I understand the power of the mind. And when you tell people data points, like the last time Neptune was in Aries, like I mentioned earlier, was the Civil War, people will freaking crash out unless you give them unless you give context and unless you give like helpful hints on how to use this energy, because energy is just not binary. It's not like good or bad, or, you know, there's like different ways in which you can harness the energy and transmute it. It doesn't always have to be about violence and revolution, but we usually look towards the past in order for us to gain clues of the future. And when we know that, we can mitigate certain things. So this moment before March is really like the preparation phase for me, if you haven't been doing that already, because I personally believe that our lives are going to change post March. There's going to be a BM before March and there's going to be an AM after March. So on February 25th, Mercury in Pisces will conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 20 degrees. Now, Mercury in Pisces is in its detriment and its fall. But I have my Mercury in Pisces, and I have to say that Mercury in Pisces communicates and interprets through signs, symbols, and omens and poetry. We love writing and we love to connect in a deeper intuitive level, very intuitive placement here. And so when it's conjunct Saturn in Pisces, you could be having like deeper conversations. Maybe you are meditating, maybe you're taking your writing seriously, or your music, or your poetry writing, because Saturn brings that like stoic, serious, disciplined nature when it's together with Mercury and Pisces. You might be, communicating your desire for commitment of some kind, or you're saying, I'm finally going to commit to practicing piano, or I'm going to be committed to sharing more of my art. But there's some signature of commitment here. On February 27th, two things are happening. So the Mercury in Pisces is sextile Uranus and Taurus at 23 degrees. And when Mercury and Uranus come together in our harmonious aspect, like a sextile, there could be surprising news. There could be something unexpected in your inbox or your DMs. But this is kind of baked in with the new moon in Pisces. And like I mentioned, it's the last lunation until eclipse season. And so new moons are for a reset. They're to set intentions. They're to do some kind of like ritual or ceremony. My sister and I are actually going to the Korean spa. We're going to get scrubs. We're going to like shed old skin, very year of the snake. We're going to soak and we're going to meditate in water. I love using water as a medium for doing magic and ritual, because ultimately for me, with my water placements, that is also a way that I manifest. And so I would suggest, if you want to use this new moon energy, I would be by an ocean, Pisces, a river, a lake, whatever it is, and speak into the water, or do some kind of ritual with water. Sometimes you can just, let's pretend that this is a glass of water, and you just speak into it and you just send loving energy to the water. And if you need more proof of this, I talk about this in my book, How to Manifest, Dr. Emoto's water studies, and how when Dr. Emoto did experiments with water, he would say, like, you're ugly to this batch of water versus like you're beautiful, and saying positive affirmations. The crystallized formations of the water would be different. So in the water samples where he said like kind of like negative affirmations, they were just like ugly blobs, versus the ones where he would say positive affirmations. They were like perfect crystal like sacred geometry. So it's really important too, because like we are 75% water, and that's why we're so connected to the moon. And so you have to think about, if you're water and you are holding like memories and codes in your water, you have to be very careful of what you say to yourself. You have to just be very careful in what you speak, right? Because speaking is a spell. Like abracadabra is abracadabra. Am I saying that right? And I find it interesting too, because Lady Gaga has a Venus in Aries, and she just came out with that new song, Abracadabra. It's literally a spell that you put out into the world. So also with this Mercury and Pisces, on February 25th, it's conjunct Saturn. And then on February 27th, on this new moon, it's sextile Uranus. It's like you almost want to be very careful of what you say, because it's going to start to like soak into your like I almost want to say like your ocean, the ocean in your body, because we're again 75% water. So be just mindful of what you say to yourself, what you're thinking about yourself. So this new moon in Pisces is co-present with Saturn, Mercury and Neptune, and the North Node in Pisces. There's a lot of Pisces energy here. It's at 9 degrees, and this new moon will be square to Jupiter, which is finally direct, and it is the ruler of this lunation. Um, and yeah, I just think like this is just a great new moon to set intentions and to surrender, because the North Node in Pisces is all about accepting magic, accepting your divinity, accepting surrender, and to release control, because the opposite sign is Virgo, right? Um, yeah, it's a beautiful day to do this kind of work. On March 1st, Venus will go retrograde in Aries at 10 degrees. So you want to think back to the last time Venus was retrograde in Aries, which was 2017. And if you think back to 2017, because I remember this very, very clearly, this was March of 2017. January of that year, earlier that year, was when Trump was first inaugurated into the presidency. Meh. And there was a women's march in DC, and everybody wore their pink woven pussy hats. Like I literally have a picture of me and my friend in DC and her mom wove us the pussy hats, which is very Venus. And we marched and protested against Donald Trump's presidency. And it was also during the Me Too movement. That was 2017. And you want to look back in increments of 8. So 2009, 2001, 1993, 1985, 1997, 1977, 1969, 1961, 1953, and 1945. So if you were born during those years, and specifically between like February and April, you might have been born during a Venus retrograde in Aries. And I just had a client who I read for who was born February 1961. So she was born right before Venus stationed to go retrograde in Aries. And so this is her Venus in Aries retrograde story. So you want to look at your chart for that. And what's interesting about this Venus retrograde is that it'll be in detriment in the sign of Aries, since Venus is in its domicile in the signs of Libra and Taurus. So when Venus is in the sister sign, the opposite sign, so all the both of the Mars ruled signs like Aries and Scorpio, Venus will be in its detriment. Again, it doesn't mean that it's weak. It doesn't mean that it just means that when Venus is in Aries, it has this more activist signature, this more resistant, this more like feisty and spicy signature of Venus. And it's going to go back into the sign of Pisces, where it's exalted. So it is interesting that we get these two very different sides of Venus during this retrograde. So I just wrote down a couple of Venus and Aries keywords that you can like meditate on. And everybody has a Pisces and Aries house in their natal chart. So you want to look at, like, I use whole sign houses. So, you want to look at your Pisces house, you want to look at your Aries house, because those are the houses and areas of your life that are going to massively get activated and possibly change. Like the potential for change is huge. So the keywords are passionate and quick romance. So you might be involved in a situationship. And I, as an astrologer, I'm always like, I wouldn't recommend like starting a new relationship during a Venus retrograde, especially since Mercury will also be retrograde at the same time. Sex scandals, protests, femme issues, avant-garde art, like Lady Gaga, she has a natal Venus in Aries. On the same day, Mercury in Pisces will conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. And this also will happen on April 4th, but Mercury will be retrograde. And then on April 10th, Mercury will be direct. And also, on March 1st, as Mercury in Pisces is conjunct the North Node, I do believe this is interesting because Mercury will be officially in shadow. So the North Node is where our souls are trying to integrate into this physical reality, something about that archetype. And Pisces is the sign about unity consciousness, feeling deeply how interconnected we are. I love using this Rumi quote as an example. It's like, crap, I'm going to forget how it goes. So I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but you are not a drop in the ocean. You are entire ocean in a drop. And it basically is saying that like we are all the entire ocean. And also you are the entire like ocean in a drop. Like you are a specific creation of God, universe incarnate. And we are also so interconnected that we are part of the same source. It's really beautiful and also sometimes hard to grasp as humans because we live in a society that is designed to separate us, and our systems are designed for white supremacy and class warfare, right? But when you really get down granular to who we are as humans, like we are all like we are all of the same source. That's what's so mind-boggling to me, that centuries and centuries of humans decided like, oh, black people are going to be dehumanized, brown people are going to be dehumanized, we're going to go to their country, extract all their resources, destabilize their governments, and then we're going to be called the Western world and we're going to be called the heroes. Like, it's just like crazy to me. Anyway, sorry I went on that tangent. Venus and Aries, like I feel very like activism mode locked in, So when you have the North Node in Pisces like that, it's like that is the central focus of the collective at the time. And so when Mercury in Pisces is conjunct that, it's like, oh, how can I make a difference? Like, what is my role? What are my gifts? What can I bring to the table? What kinds of like downloads am I getting too? I feel like this is such a huge download day, March 1st. March 2nd, Mercury in Pisces will conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And so this will happen two more times. This will happen on March 29th when Mercury is retrograde. And it's literally Mercury is at 29 degrees and 59 minutes, like right before both Mercury and Neptune will be at 0 degrees in Aries on April 17th. So it's like Mercury's doing a lot this month. Mercury is connecting with the North Node. It's like, okay, how am I going to grow? How am I a part of the collective? And then Mercury is connecting with Neptune. It's like, what are my beliefs? What are my ideals? What are my visions for the future? And this is a great day to sit with, to imagine, to journal. So I was sharing in the March forecast that I have a natal Mercury in Pisces, and so I'm going to use this day to actually write my book, like parts of my book, because I'm writing a fantasy fiction book. So I really can use the delusions and illusions that Neptune and Pisces has to offer actually to my benefit. Another way you can use this energy is to listen to music, because Mercury in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces speaks in vibration or art or music. It's not something tangible. It's not something that you can even really describe through speaking words, but it's something felt. And then like you get inspired by something and you write beautiful piece of poetry, or or you write poetry for somebody, like somebody that you have a crush on, Same day, March 2nd, the sun in Pisces will square Jupiter in Gemini. And I really like when the sun squares Jupiter because it feels like something needs to expand. So all the things I said about Pisces when the sun is in Pisces, it's like our life force energy, right? Something about us, something about our souls becomes alive through all the topics I just mentioned. And Jupiter, yes, it's still hanging out at 11 degrees. So Jupiter is like literally just staying still in the sky. It's like, okay, how am I going to choose differently? You know, Gemini is a sign of choice, the twins, and Jupiter wants to expand. This is the closing square. So this will bring you back to May 18th, 2024, the original conjunction between the sun and Gemini. And so think back to what happened during that time. And this is kind of like the final like crisis point, the final decision point of what you're going to do between your Pisces and Gemini houses. And so I'm even thinking back of what was going on at that time. And I'm like, I kind of already know what I'm going to decide because this is the closing square, it's kind of like the final, all right, this area of my life is not growing. And so I need to pivot and choose something different. But because it's a square, you're going to have to choose differently this time because where you're going now is not necessarily where you've been. And I think overall, like I've been saying this for so long now, the overall vibe recently, because all of these planets have been retrograde in their fall or detriment, right? So it's already a planet that's not in a great position. And then you have the Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is our sense of optimism, our sense of expansion, abundance. And then Mars is like our will, our confidence, our action. When those two planets go retrograde, it's kind of like womp womp. Like, what am I doing? I feel kind of like down in the dumps. I don't know what I'm doing. And everything's kind of stagnant, right? And I was sharing with this mutual aid event that I was speaking at yesterday, which the topic was the astrology of collective liberation. And I was just sharing my own experience recently of how I've also felt stuck. And now I'm reframing that maybe it's not stuck, but it's like the hangman in tarot, you know, like I actually have my tarot cards here. So if I can find it, I can show you visually like what I'm talking about. But it's like, you know, just manifestation 101, when you're calling something in, when you're asking for something, when you're manifesting something, it has to be something different because if you expect it, then it's something that you're currently experiencing, right? There has to be a change. Something has to change for you to experience something differently. And so if collectively and individually, we are all just doing the same shit, nothing is going to change. And so this is when there's a divine intervention that says, hold up, we're not growing this business anymore. We're not giving you any more clients. We're not expanding this area of your life anymore. It's because it's from a loving place, actually. It's from a place where they're like, when I say they, it's like your spirit guides and your ancestors are like, that's not what you want. Well, you keep saying what you want is not how you're going to get it from doing the same shit over and over again. So you have to literally pause. This is the hanged man. This person is hanging upside down to see a different perspective, to have another way of looking at something. And I think this is a Neptune card, actually. So it's so interesting that Neptune is moving into the sign of Aries in March. But so I literally sat with that and I was like, maybe I'm not stuck, but something about my belief is like blocking me and holding me back and tying me to the past because the future version of me is requiring a different set of belief systems and actions that is more in alignment with my future self. You know what I mean? But you have to actually like stop and pause and reflect and like take the time to understand what it is and like stop doing that and stop like repeating the thought and belief pattern. You know what I mean? So I'm just sharing this because a lot of people have felt stuck, like myself included, my friends, clients, They're just like, why isn't anything moving forward in my life? And honestly, the best advice I can give for you is to take this as a divine intervention from a place of love, of looking out for you, that what you have been doing up until this point got you this far, but what you are calling in, what you are manifesting, you cannot keep repeating that old calcified belief in order for you to manifest the future, like the future version of you that is already doing it, right? You have to like, and this is what the retrogrades are for, the Venus retrograde, the Mercury retrograde. It's like you have to start to check like your value, your worth, how you've shown up in relationships, because Venus is a relational planet, and Mercury, your communication, and just like reviewing things from the past so that. And my friend Stephanie Campos, who I do the monthly horoscopes with, she always says like retrogrades are the antidote to capitalism. It's a moment to sit and reflect and digest and review so that when eclipses happen and those things start breaking apart, then we can start to take action from a more aligned place. And so I send you so much love and safety, and may you be protected during this journey because, you know, it's not easy being human these days. Witnessing an apocalypse, which is the unveiling of the truth. But as always, thank you so much for supporting me, for subscribing, for commenting, for sharing, and for sending me so much love. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I wish you all the best this week. New moon in Pisces and Venus retrograde in Aries. Bye.